the most terrifying thing that ever happened to me wasn't losing my hearing. It was getting it back. Because the very first sound I heard was my own son calling me dead weight. He and his wife were planning to dump me in a nursing home just to steal my $870,000 house. For 3 days straight, I sat there like a statue, faking deafness, watching them laugh right in my face. They thought I was a fool. But they had no idea. I had secretly changed the will. I had become the director of this revenge play. Now they've pushed up my doctor's appointment to tomorrow morning. I've only got 1 night left to spring the $2,000 trap. Will it close before they figure out the truth? If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit subscribe right now. Join us to witness this cold, satisfying revenge and learn how to truly protect yourself. Comment "justice" in the chat immediately to join the community that fights back against injustice. The little beeping of the hospital blood pressure monitor sounded like the sweetest song. After 5 weeks of absolute silence, that tiny sound was better than any ballad John and I ever heard. I put my hand on my chest, feeling my heart beat with the machine's rhythm. My eyes were shining like seeing sunrise after a long night. "Mrs. Wilson, can you hear me?" Dr. Thompson's voice was sharp and clear, like a gentle wind chime on a peaceful morning. No more muffled sound. I just nodded, pressing my lips tight. I was terrified a single word would make this miracle disappear. The hearing test headphones were still clamped over my head. Every sound, the tick-tock of the wall clock, the rustle of paper at the front desk, came through so clearly it made me shiver. My fingers trembled taking the headphones off. It felt like holding a precious jewel. It's all back," I whispered. Then I spoke louder, stunned by my own voice, like meeting a loved one after years apart. Dr. Thompson smiled. He typed fast on his tablet, the tiny clicks of his finger on the screen a sound I'd never noticed before. "The inflammation is completely gone. Your hearing is now completely normal," he said, his eyes sparkling with delight. 5 weeks ago, an accident at a job site near Portland had stolen my world of sound. A broken excavator had let out a horrific noise, causing temporary damage. "You might be deaf forever," they had told me. But now, I heard everything. The low hum of the AC, the squeak of the nurse's sneakers, the soft whoosh of the sliding glass door. James drove me here this morning, but said he was busy and left. He told me to just grab a cab home when I was done. I leaned in and spoke low to Dr. Thompson. "When my son calls later, please tell him my hearing hasn't progressed. I want it to be a surprise." He chuckled, nodded, his eyes shining conspiratorially. James was going to be shocked, I thought. He'd been by my side the whole time, moving back home to care for his mother. My heart felt warm. I pictured James's radiant face when I walked in and called his name. "I want to call James right now," I said, reaching for my phone on the table. "We need to finalize the discharge paperwork first," Dr. Thompson replied, handing me a stack of forms. Just then, James called the doctor's line. The doctor told James exactly what I instructed, that my hearing had not improved. He winked at me through the exam room glass, nodding to our secret plan. I gave a slight smile. My heart was pounding, like I was keeping a precious secret. I signed the papers, my hand shaking slightly, the pen scratching the page, a sound I used to ignore. Nurse Sophie explained the follow-up visits, but I was barely listening. My mind was busy picturing that walk through my front door. I'd stand on the threshold, yell, "James!" and watch his face light up in disbelief, and then we'd all share a big laugh in the dining room. "Take it easy for the first few days," Sophie said, her voice gentle and motherly. "Your brain needs time to readjust to all these sounds." I thanked them, walking out into the hallway. My sneakers clacked on the tile floor, every step unwrapping a gift of sound. The elevator opened with a clear dong, and I stepped in, pushing the button for the parking garage. The small click of the button was simple, yet felt like a friendly hello. I walked out to the lot and called a taxi. As the car pulled away, the low engine rumble made me smile. A sound I used to dislike, today felt like hearing an old song again. The driver turned on the radio. An old Western folk tune John loved filled the air. "Music is how the heart speaks," I whispered, remembering what John always said on those weekend afternoons. my voice so quiet the driver couldn't hear, but loud enough for me to feel its vitality. The 25-minute trip home was a chorus of sound. The low roar of traffic, the tires gliding over the road, a distant honking horn. The world was singing to welcome me back. My neighborhood appeared, those classic suburban homes with white fences and neatly manicured lawns. Mrs. Miller next door was weeding, the shovel scratching the dirt. A few houses down, kids were playing, their shouts echoing in the cool air. A dog barked, another answered from around the corner. I paid the cab, stepped out onto the driveway, my eyes sweeping over the 2-story red brick house John and I had spent a lifetime building. James's pickup truck was parked right there, the afternoon sun glistening on the hood, a shining promise. He must be inside, probably grabbing a beer or watching TV. My hand paused on the car door handle. My heart hammered like before a grand performance. Should I yell his name or go for the surprise? I smiled, deciding I would just walk into the dining room, say something casual, and watch his face light up like a spotlight. I walked up the porch steps, my shoes clicking on the oak wood. From inside, voices drifted out. James and Emily. They must be in the dining room. Perfect. I'd surprise them both. I slid the key into the lock, turning it quietly like a spy, and pushed the door open. The voices grew clearer as I softly walked down the hallway. It's such a pain. That dead-weight old woman is coming home soon. James's voice was sharp as a knife, plunging straight into my heart. Did I really let my love for James make me blind? I froze, my hand still gripping the doorknob. James's words cut sharper than any construction noise from 5 weeks ago. Dead weight. Emily's voice sliced in right after, ice cold and clear. At least the insurance helped cover the hospital bill. Could have been worse. My legs were shaking. It felt like the floor was collapsing. I pressed my back hard against the hallway wall, my breath caught in my throat. I tried to tell myself my brain was just overloaded by sound. But James's next sentence ripped every last bit of hope away. I just want this over with. 5 weeks of faking being attentive? I'm exhausted. The world tilted. My chest felt like it held a slab of rock. The faith I'd put in James, the love I'd built over years of sacrifice, shattered. It left a painful, gaping hole I didn't know how to fill. They even started trashing Sarah, my daughter, and her husband, David, acting like she was some heartless kid who abandoned me. Sarah is too busy, too selfish. She never cares about Mom, James sneered. Emily agreed. You made a mistake ever helping her. I had to ask, did I really misjudge Sarah all this time because of James's lies? Or was she genuinely as uncaring as they claimed? Hearing that was a physical ache. Not just James's betrayal, but the intense self-blame. For years, I let his words cloud Sarah's love. I truly believed my daughter was distant and self-centered. Her short, rare calls were always full of affection, but I never saw it. I let myself be totally manipulated. This was my son. James's own voice. The one I paid for college. The one I guided through his worst breakups. The one I welcomed home whenever he needed me. I stood there, statue still in the hall, listening to the 2 people I trusted most, realizing they had no clue I heard every single word. My chest burned. It felt like someone was squeezing my heart and twisting it. The hallway seemed to warp with my frantic heartbeat. James's phrase, dead weight, echoed in my skull. 5 weeks. I thought he was here out of genuine love, helping me through the biggest crisis of my life. How incredibly naive I was. My legs wanted to buckle, but I forced myself upright, pressed against the wall. I needed to hear more. I had to know exactly what I was up against before I made a move. I crept toward the dining room door, each step light as walking on thin glass. Their conversation kept going. Every word was a sledgehammer blow to my core belief. Green Hills has decent reviews, James said, his voice flat. It's not too expensive. The insurance money covers the initial deposit. Emily giggled, a sound that used to feel warm. Once she's out, we can finally start renovating. New dining room? We can knock out the wall to the living room, James added. The realtor said that would bump the house value up by $60,000. Maybe more if we redo the master bath. They were planning my life as if I no longer existed. discussing my home as if it were already theirs. I clenched my fist, my fingernails digging into the paint, fighting to keep my breathing silent. But they weren't finished. Think she suspects anything? Emily asked, curious. Are you kidding? She can't hear a damn thing, James laughed. She just sits there nodding, smiling at the notes I write. It's honestly kind of pathetic. The sheer contempt in my son's voice made my stomach twist violently. One evening, while I was on the armchair, the doorbell rang. It was Sarah and David, my daughter and son-in-law. We hadn't been close because she was busy raising her family in Seattle. Sarah sat next to me, holding my hand, her eyes full of worry. I managed a small smile seeing them. James and Emily had led me to believe Sarah didn't care, that she was too focused on her own life and never called. Sarah asked James, "How's Mom doing?" "I heard her hearing hasn't come back." James snapped. "Same as always." "We've got it covered," Sarah continued. "David and I talked. I want to buy Mom the best hearing aids. I can take care of the cost. Mom's the most important person to me." Emily sneered. "No need, Sarah. We're looking into assisted living. Mom will get better care there." I sat there, listening to every word, my face and smile stuck in a blank, innocent look, pretending I couldn't hear their entire conversation. If I could have seen my own face then, I'd probably laugh at my own dumb act. That's how convincing my performance was. Sarah was stunned. "A nursing home? No, if Mom needs care, she's moving in with us. I think she'd be better off with family than with strangers." David, standing beside her, nodded. "We just want Mom to be happy with family, the way she always took care of us." James dismissed them. "Sarah, you don't get it. Mom needs professional care. Assisted living is better for her." Lying there, my heart warmed hearing Sarah's voice, but James's words felt like a stab. The weight was crushing. Did Sarah truly care for me? Or had I misunderstood her for too long because of James's lies? Sarah, the child I thought was distant because of James's manipulation, was the one protecting me. Her short, rare calls were always loving. I realized I had completely misjudged her because of James and Emily's deceit. One night I forgot myself and turned on the TV to a family drama. Laughter and emotional dialogue filled the room. I was nodding along, hooked. In the corner of my eye, I saw Emily lurking behind the door, watching for clues. My heart pounded, but I kept my smile vague, blinking softly, zoned into the screen. When the credits rolled, I spoke sadly. "That looked so moving. I wish I could hear it. Maybe this deafness wouldn't feel so heavy." I paused, sighing. I don't know when this is going to end. The floor creaked as Emily quietly left. I relaxed. Then I heard her tell James, "She still can't hear a thing. You're just being paranoid." They dropped their guard. The next day, I was on the armchair and heard James call from the kitchen, "Mom!" By reflex, I almost answered. I caught myself, heart hammering. James walked out, his eyes narrow with suspicion. Quick thinking. I pointed to the water bottle on the table, my hands shaking slightly to keep up the frail act. I whispered, "Could you grab me that water? I'm so thirsty." James stared at me, then nodded, returning to the kitchen. I then heard him whisper to Emily, "She reacted too fast. Didn't that feel weird? Something's not natural, right?" Emily replied, "Must be habit. She still can't hear anything." I squeezed my hands to calm my racing heart. How many more times would they test me? How long could I keep this act going? I let out a silent sigh, knowing I had to be more careful. I remembered all the notes James wrote over the 5 weeks. The overly big smiles. The gentle pats on the shoulder. It was all a performance. I decided to keep faking deafness to see how far they'd go. I needed their full plan. I needed time to set my trap. I took a deep breath, telling myself, play confused. Play grateful. Watch their faces and see how well they could lie to someone they thought was totally helpless. I walked into the dining room, purposely making my shoes click louder than normal, like someone unsteady. James and Emily were sitting at the table. Their change was immediate. "Mom!" James jumped up, his face instantly plastered with fake concern. He rushed over, gently gripping my arm like I was the most fragile thing. "How are you feeling?" You look tired. James's voice was sweet, nothing like the one that called me dead weight a minute ago. I leaned into his arm, playing the role of the grateful, naive mother. Emily spoke loudly as if I were still deaf. Hi, Mom. How was the appointment? I nodded, shrugged, and pointed to my ear with a confused look. James instantly grabbed the small notebook from the kitchen shelf. He was used to this routine. He wrote, Doctor says your hearing might come back soon. Amazing news, Emily leaned down and added. Doctor says there's hope, Mom. I read it, letting relief wash over my face. But inside, I logged every detail of their act. The way James's eyes widened with fake excitement. The way he squeezed my shoulder, pretending to share my joy. The way Emily nodded eagerly beside him, like she cared about anything but when I'd leave this house. Emily leaned down and wrote, Maybe we should look for a temporary care facility once you're stronger. Just short-term, to help with meds and physical therapy. Nothing long-term. James nodded, adding quickly, Just so Mom gets the best support. I nodded enthusiastically, pretending this was wonderful news. But in my head, I noted how smoothly they transitioned from plotting a nursing home to staging the temporary care drama. They were completely calculated. For the next few minutes, I played my role perfectly, pointing at things, acting confused when they spoke aloud. If anyone's ever lied right to your face like that, share how it felt in the comments. I nodded, faking gratitude when James wrote asking if I was hungry. I'm not hungry, I whispered, my voice slightly shaky. I forced a tired, satisfied smile as Emily patted my back and wrote, We're happy you're okay. Every gesture was like swallowing poison. But I pushed myself to keep acting. I needed more. I had to know exactly what they were planning and how much time I had left before they made their move. Finally, I pointed upstairs, saying slowly, I'm tired. Going to rest now. James actually hugged me. A real hug. He spoke loud and clear. Of course, Mom. Get lots of rest. I climbed the stairs slowly, feeling their eyes glued to my back. Just before stepping on the top landing, I heard Emily's voice. Soft but razor-sharp to my newly recovered hearing. She bought the whole thing hook, line, and sinker. I took each step, gripping the railing to keep my hands from shaking. Inside my bedroom, I closed the door quietly and sat on the edge of the bed, the same bed John and I shared for 35 years. This house felt alien now. A cage. These walls were once my sanctuary, my family. Now they were hiding a massive betrayal. My son, the child I raised and loved. He was a stranger wearing James's face. I was just an obstacle between him and my money. I stared at the photo on the nightstand, James graduating college, his arm around me, both of us beaming. That kid was gone if he ever existed. But I wasn't helpless. They thought they were dealing with a deaf, confused old woman who would be grateful for the crumbs of attention they tossed my way. They had no idea what they woke up. John's wedding ring still sat on the small dish on the table. I picked it up, my fingers trembling. I remembered how John used to absent-mindedly twist his ring when he was deep in thought. He would have known exactly how to handle James. He always saw people clearer than I did. Their voices still drifted up from the dining room. They thought they had all the time in the world to schedule my future. I put the ring down and tiptoed toward the door. This old house was an acoustic dream. I'd renovated it 25 years ago. The vent near the stairs funneled the sound from the dining room perfectly. If I stood in the right spot in the hallway, I could hear everything. I tested each step, remembering which one creaked. The fourth step squeaked on the right side, but was silent on the left. Decades of living here were now my unexpected weapon. Green Hills costs $5,200 a month, James said when I found the sweet spot. But Medicare covers most of it if we get the right medical evaluation. Emily's voice echoed through the vent. The realtor said the house is worth at least $520,000. Pay off the mortgage and we'll have $350K left for the down payment on the place in Santa Fe, James continued. My house, where John and I built our lives, where he took his last breath. They were discussing it like a piece of merchandise. What's the timeline? Emily asked. A month and a half, maybe sooner. James replied. We need to create proof that Mom's unstable first. Documenting incidents, memory problems. Dr. Evans owes me a favor for the Mustang I helped him buy. He'll write the report our way. I gripped the railing, my knuckles white. They weren't just planning to abandon me. They were plotting to destroy my dignity, to strip me of my independence. Footsteps sounded from the dining room. James's voice was closer. Let me check if she suspects anything. I retreated quickly and silently to the room, lying down on the bed, pretending to be asleep. The long nights taking care of John taught me how to control my breathing. James's footsteps came up the stairs. He avoided the creaking fourth step. I noticed that. Mom, he said loudly, I brought you tea. I opened my eyes slowly, blinking blankly. James stood at the doorway holding a steaming mug. The mask of worry on his face made me want to throw up. He put the mug on the nightstand, right next to John's ring dish. The insult wasn't accidental. You looked tired earlier, James said slowly. Are you okay? I nodded, whispering, Thank you, dear. You're so good to me. The words felt like a knife, but James beamed. He patted my shoulder, a gesture a stranger would see as loving, but I saw the calculation in his eyes. Get lots of rest, Mom. Emily and I have everything handled, James said. After he left, I lay motionless, listening to his retreating footsteps. Then James's voice reporting to Emily, She doesn't know a thing. Right on schedule, drinking her tea like a model patient. But they still weren't completely secure. A few days later, while I was sitting on the armchair pretending to read, Emily suddenly screamed right behind me. Mom, get out! The house is on fire! My heart hammered, but I didn't move. My eyes were half closed, dreamy. My hand slowly turned the page. Emily's soft chuckle floated over. I heard her whisper to James in the next room. She definitely can't hear anything. I let out a silent breath. I wondered, do I have the strength to face James and Emily? Or will I be crushed by this betrayal? Emily then giggled, Perfect. Why wait a month and a half? Evans can do the evaluation next week. We'll tell him Mom wanders off, she's confused, forgets to eat, leaves the stove on. If you've ever seen someone's mask slip right in front of you, drop a heart and share your story in the comments. However, my confidence was shaken just hours later. While clearing the bookshelf in the home office to help Mom, Emily found something I'd carelessly left out, the business card from my lawyer, Ellen Hayes, tucked into an old novel. I saw it through the crack in the door. My heart raced as she flipped the card over, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. She didn't say a word. She slipped it into her pocket and quickly left the room. That evening, the air in the house was unusually thick. I heard tense whispers from their bedroom. Then James came out, his face tight. He asked me a few fake concerned questions, then pulled out his notebook. His handwriting was full of simulated worry. Mom, I'm so worried about you. Dr. Evans is coming to see you bright and early tomorrow. He wants to do a thorough checkup. My heart stopped. Tomorrow morning. They desperately sped up the plan. I had barely one night left. One night to execute the entire counterattack. The pressure meant I couldn't hesitate. I had to call Sarah and Ellen immediately. Waiting until deep night, I crept to the secret compartment and retrieved my cell phone. I planned to call from the bathroom for privacy. But just as my hand touched the phone, a soft sound in the hallway startled me. My heart leaped out of my chest. James and Emily! They were coming toward my room. No time to think. I shoved the phone under the mattress and threw myself onto the bed, faking sleep. I fought to control my ragged breathing. The door slowly creaked open. A flashlight beam swept across the room. I kept my eyes barely shut, seeing two shadows silently step inside. Search thoroughly, James whispered, his voice taut with tension. Check for any strange phones, recorders, or papers. Emily went straight for my coat hanging on the rack, patting down every pocket. Her movements were fast, precise, and cold. Then she moved toward the nightstand. One more move to open the drawer, and she'd find my old wallet, where I kept Ellen's card. In utter desperation, I let out a soft groan, then mumbled as if in a dream. John. John, where are you? My husband's name was like a curse. James froze. His gaze shifted from suspicion to something like confusion, even guilt. Stop, let's go, he hissed at Emily. Let her sleep. They left, leaving me in the dark, soaked in cold sweat. I had escaped by a hair's breadth. Now I understood. This game had reached its climax, and now, with everything clear as day, I knew I hadn't just lost a son. I was facing a dangerous enemy right here in my own home. Would I have the strength to expose it all before it's too late? Just normal memory stuff. James paused, and I held my breath. If we log a few more incidents over the next couple of weeks, we're golden. Exactly. By the end of the month, we can get her admitted and check out the facilities. I stared at the ceiling, my mind reeling. They weren't just betraying me. They wanted to wipe me out. Steal my independence, my dignity, my home, everything that made life worth living. But they made a huge mistake. They thought they were dealing with a deaf, helpless old woman who would just accept the fate they chose. They had no idea every single word was building the case against them. I reached for my wallet and pulled out a business card I'd kept for 5 years. Ellen Hayes, my lawyer. She handled John's estate and advised me to update my will. Tomorrow I'm calling Ellen. Tonight, I'm listening to every damn word. They wanted to play a game with an old lady's life. I was about to show them how dangerous that game could be. The card felt solid between my fingers as I walked into the home office. I handled all our finances here for 35 years. Ellen Hayes' number was printed in dark blue ink, matching the legal folder holding our important papers. I pulled open the filing cabinet. I flipped through years of receipts, taxes, bank statements, the paper trail of a life dedicated to family. What I found made my chest tighten. The receipt for James's wedding, $40,000. I remembered draining part of my retirement fund, working overtime for a year to make up for it. Mom, just make it perfect, James had pleaded. Dad would have wanted it beautiful. The college tuition bill, $32,000 I paid off after he graduated. James was 22, crying at the dining table. I can't do this anymore. Drowning in debt. I wrote the check without hesitation. The apartment down payment, $18,000. Another chunk of my retirement, happily sacrificed because my son needed help. But there was more. John's final medical bills, $75,000 not covered by insurance. I paid that alone. James made excuses to stay away. I can't handle seeing Dad like this, Mom. The numbers blurred as my hand shook. Over $120,000 freely given to the son who now called me dead weight. Money was never the biggest issue. The thing that kept me up all night was this. Did James ever really love me? Or was my whole life just a staged performance for him to keep milking me for years? I pulled out the graduation photo. James standing between John and me, arm-linked, smiling with bright hope. I questioned everything. Did the kid in this picture ever genuinely love me? Or was it all just an act to exploit my good nature? I can't do it without you, Mom, he used to whisper. I'll never forget your sacrifice. That memory broke the dam. James at 20, crying over tuition debt. All my friends' parents help them. Never mind the night shifts I worked, the trips I canceled to buy his books. James at 27, planning his wedding. You'll always have a home with me, Mom, I promise. Emily nodded beside him, her thanks feeling rehearsed. James at 34, skipping John's funeral because Emily has a big work thing. You understand, right? It's a huge opportunity. I stood alone at the funeral home, while my son was 3 states away. In his final weeks, John asked the question that broke my heart. Where's James? I lied softly. He's busy, he'll be here tomorrow. John nodded, choosing to believe his son cared. Everything was crystal clear now. James only took, only received, trading promises for bigger requests. And I gave, mistaking generosity for love. I pulled up the bank statements, checking the nursing home cost. Green Hills at $5,200 a month would wipe out my savings in less than 3 years. But that wasn't their real concern. They wanted the house sale money now to start their new life in Santa Fe. When was the last time James called just to chat? When did he ask about my day, my health, my loneliness? Every single conversation ended with a request: pay Emily's car bill, a loan for a vacation, a contribution to their anniversary. John had seen the truth. He tried to warn me gently. "You're enabling him," he said after I paid for James's car repair for the third time in 6 months. "He needs to learn to solve his own problems." "He's our son," I shot back. "Family helps family." "There's a difference between helping and enabling," John replied. "And a difference between gratitude and entitlement." Now, looking at this pile of evidence of my misguided generosity, I finally understood what my husband meant. James didn't learn to appreciate the help. He learned to expect it. When I became the one who needed care, he just saw a burden blocking what he always felt entitled to. I looked at the photo one last time, then turned it face down in the drawer. The kid in that photo was gone. What was left was a monster who would fake mental illness to steal my independence, collude with a doctor to declare me incompetent, and sell the house where his father died to chase his own dream. But I wasn't confused. I was furious, red-hot rage. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you sacrificed everything for, leave a comment so I know I'm not alone in this. The next morning, I woke up with a feeling of extreme tension. The clock read only 6:30 a.m., just a few hours before Dr. Evans was due. I could hear James and Emily rustling in the kitchen below, planning the strategy for the critical evaluation. My heart was pounding. I had to act now. At 7 a.m., I went downstairs, deliberately looking exhausted. James looked up from the stove where he was frying eggs, his smile bright but fake. "Good morning, Mom," he called loudly. "Dr. Evans is coming to see you this morning. Emily and I need to go out to pick up a few things to prepare." I nodded gratefully, pointing to my ear with a confused look. James took the small notebook from the shelf and wrote, "Emily and I are going shopping this morning. Can you be home alone for a few hours?" I whispered, my voice tired. "Yes. Thank you for taking care of me." The words were bitter, but James's satisfied look showed he believed me completely. They left at 7:30 a.m. I waited exactly 10 minutes and then immediately called Ellen Hayes. My old engineer's habit was hard to shake, always checking the time, always having a contingency plan. Ellen Hayes answered on the second ring. "Hayes Law Office." "Ellen speaking?" "Ellen, it's Mrs. Wilson. I need to change my will immediately. They've pushed the evaluation up to this morning." A pause. "Mrs. Wilson, I heard you were having hearing problems." "It's complicated. Can you meet me right now? It's extremely urgent." "Yes, 8 a.m., but are you sure?" "I've never been more certain," I replied, my voice sharp and cold. The drive to downtown Eugene took 15 minutes. Ellen's office was in a craftsman-style house on Oak Street, where she helped me handle John's estate 6 years ago. Mrs. Thompson, her secretary, was surprised to see me walk in unassisted. "Mrs. Wilson, you look so much better," she said in a normal voice. "Much better, thank you," I replied. Ellen came out, tall with salt and pepper hair, my legal counsel for over 12 years. She shook my hand, her eyes worried. "Mrs. Wilson, I have to ask, are you experiencing any cognitive issues? Confusion or memory loss?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Ellen, I want to change my will to leave everything to Sarah in Seattle. The entire estate, house, savings, investments. James is only to receive $2,000 for a reason he will understand." Ellen raised an eyebrow, but she was experienced enough not to ask more. "This is a major change from the previous will. Are you absolutely certain? Draw up the papers. I'm signing today." Over the next hour, we finalized the details. The house was valued at $520,000. Savings accounts at $210,000, investment, portfolio at $140,000, a total estate of about $870,000, now all designated for Sarah instead of the son who called me dead weight. "I'll need witnesses for the signing," Ellen said, reviewing the final draft. "Use your staff. And I want a copy to take home today." "Unusual, but fine," she replied. By 1 p.m., the new will was signed, certified, and filed. I asked myself, was cutting James out of the will the only way to protect myself, or was I letting pain guide my decision? I left the office with the sealed envelope, feeling a lightness, not from taking from James, but from taking back control of my life. Back home, I placed the envelope prominently on the dining table, where James would see it the moment he walked in. Then I sat in the armchair in the living room holding a newspaper, my ears strained to catch everything from the dining room. At 10:15 a.m., a car door slammed shut in the driveway. James's voice drifted in through the front door. Hope she didn't try to cook anything while we were gone. The door opened. The rustling of shopping bags and footsteps advanced into the dining room. Then silence. A sharp intake of breath like a cut through glass. The envelope rustled as James tore it open. From the armchair in the living room, I clearly heard every sound. The ripping paper, the frantic turning of pages, and then an endless silence. "Emily," James's voice was a whisper. "Emily, get in here now." Hurried footsteps pounded on the dining room floor. "What is it?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Look at this!" The papers violently crumpled. "That damn old woman changed the will." I held my breath, my ears strained to catch every word, still holding my pose of sleeping behind the newspaper. "Changed it how?" Emily's voice was sharp, panicked. James read aloud, his voice shaking with fury. "To Sarah Wilson, my daughter, I leave my entire estate, including but not limited to the house at 123 Cedar Lane, all bank accounts, investment portfolios, and personal assets." "That can't be legal," Emily snapped. "When did she do this?" "It's dated today." "Today, Emily, while we were out shopping like dutiful caregivers, she went downtown and signed papers that stole our future." A chair scraped against the floor, followed by pacing. "How much is the total?" "The house alone is $520,000, plus the savings, the investments." James's voice cracked. "We just lost over $870,000 to little Sarah, who hasn't bothered to visit her mother in years." "There has to be a way to contest it. Mental incompetence, undue influence, something." James gave a bitter laugh. "Worse than that. Listen to this. To James Wilson, my son, I leave $2,000, for reasons he will understand." The dining room fell dead silent, broken only by heavy breathing. "For reasons he will understand," Emily repeated slowly. "What does that mean?" "It means she knows." James's voice was ice cold, calculating. "Somehow that senile old woman knows our plan. Impossible. She's deaf. We've been talking right in front of her for a month." "Then explain it." Paper slammed hard onto the table. "Explain how a deaf, confused old woman managed to go to a lawyer's office alone and rewrite the entire will without us knowing." I forced myself to breathe evenly, slowly, maintaining the rhythm of deep sleep. Every instinct screamed for me to laugh out loud, to reveal the perfect trap I had set. But I wondered, could I ever forgive James after everything he's done? Or had my love for him been misplaced for too long? "All right," Emily said, forcing calm into her voice. "Maybe she's not as confused as we thought. Maybe she's testing us." "Testing us?" James's voice went dangerously high. "Testing us by feigning deafness while we planned her future?" "The sly fox." "Keep your voice down. She's right next door. I don't care if she hears it," James yelled. "If she wants to play games, the game is over." Footsteps marched toward the living room. I closed my eyes, letting the newspaper slide slightly in my hand, perfecting the image of a dozing old woman. James stood before me. I heard the sound of his small notebook flipping open, then rapid writing. He held out the paper. "Are you awake, Mom?" I stirred slowly, blinking vaguely at the paper, then spoke softly, my voice innocent. "I'm awake." "James?" His face was flushed red, his hands clenched tightly at his sides. He wrote again. His pen strokes hard enough to tear the page. "Mom, where did you go today?" "While we were out?" I read it, tilting my head, feigning confusion. "Go where?" "I've been here all day." "Why would I go anywhere?" I spoke slowly, looking straight into his eyes. He wrote one more time, his handwriting shaky. "You didn't see anyone?" "Didn't make any calls?" I touched my ear, smiling sadly. Make calls? I can't hear well enough to make calls, you know that, I said, my voice light as a whisper. James's jaw tightened, but he forced his expression back into fake concern and wrote, Of course I forgot. I'm sorry, Mom. He turned back to the dining room, whispering urgently to Emily. Either she's an Oscar-winning actress or we missed something. What do you want to do? Call Dr. Evans. Tell him to prepare the paperwork for tomorrow. Don't wait until next week. If she's playing games, we'll show her how this game ends. James laughed, a cold, wintry sound. And if she really is confused, if this will is just a coincidence, she won't remember signing it, right? Either way, by Friday, she'll be declared mentally incompetent, and we'll challenge this will as the product of a sick mind. But James didn't realize that the real game had just begun, and the one holding the final card wasn't him. I sat on the chair, the newspaper trembling slightly in my hand, a subtle smile playing on my lips. James's dialing in the dining room was crystal clear to me. He was calling someone, and by the way he cleared his throat and paced, I knew he was preparing for a difficult conversation. Sarah, thank goodness you answered. James's voice was sharp and tense. No, everything is not fine. Mom has completely lost it. I shifted slightly in the armchair, leaning in to hear every word, still maintaining the pose of a sleeping old woman. This was exactly what I was waiting for. Mom changed the will, Sarah. Everything now goes to you. The house, the savings, everything. I heard Sarah's voice faintly over the phone, asking something. James's reaction told me everything I needed to know. Today, while Emily and I were out shopping like dutiful caregivers, Mom went downtown and signed papers that stole my future. James's voice cracked as if he were genuinely crying. I sacrificed everything to take care of Mom, Sarah. Everything. I moved in here, gave up my own life, and this is how Mom repays me. He was good. If I hadn't heard the truth with my own ears, I might have almost believed his performance. Mom isn't lucid anymore, Sarah. This will is the product of a sick mind. You have to refuse the assets. We need to split everything equally between us. Sarah must have replied at length, because James was silent, his face turning red, visible through the dining room doorway. Legitimate reasons? He exploded. What legitimate reasons? I am her son. I took care of her while you were living comfortably in Seattle. A pause, then James's voice went cold. How dare you judge me? You visit Mom once a year if you're lucky. You send a Christmas card and think you understand what she needs. The phone slammed down, followed by James's angry footsteps. Perfect timing. I stirred, feigning confusion as if I had just woken up. James turned back, his face still red with anger. But he quickly grabbed the small notebook and wrote, Mom, did someone call? I heard voices. I touched my ear, feigning confusion. A call? I didn't hear anything, James. Is something wrong? I said softly, my voice innocent. He wrote again, his pen strokes hard. I just talked to Sarah. Mom, is everything okay? You look sad. I read it, looking at him, my eyes misty. Sarah, my daughter? Everything is fine. Why are you so worried? He wrote, his writing shaky. Mom, we need to talk about the will. About the changes you made today? I looked at the paper, feigning bewilderment. The will? Changes? I don't understand, I said slowly, my voice slightly trembling. I saw the frustration flicker in his eyes, as he realized he had to explain everything to an old woman he thought was deaf and confused. He wrote, Never mind, Mom, it's complicated. You should rest. If you're sure everything is fine, I said, standing up slowly. I'm tired. I'll go lie down for a bit. I walked upstairs, deliberately stumbling like a frail old woman. But once inside the bedroom, closing the door, I moved quickly. My cell phone was in the nightstand drawer, the one James didn't know I had. I dialed Sarah's number from memory. Hello, her voice was cautious. Sarah, it's Mom. A long silence. Mom? James said you were deaf. How can you call? Sit down, dear. What I'm about to tell you will be a shock, but you have to keep it a secret. Promise me. Of course, Mom, what is it? I took a deep breath. Sarah, I can hear every word you say. My hearing fully recovered. But I didn't tell James because… I paused, knowing this part was difficult to hear. Because I know what he truly thinks of me. What do you mean? He called me dead weight, Sarah. I heard him and Emily planning to put me in a nursing home so they could sell this house and buy land in Santa Fe with my money. Sarah drew a sharp, cold breath over the phone. Mom, are you certain? I heard every single word. They've been planning this for a month, maybe longer. They even have a doctor friend who's going to falsify an evaluation to declare me mentally incompetent. The silence was long. I thought I'd lost the connection. Sarah, are you there? I'm here, Mom. I'm just processing this. James's called just now. He wanted me to refuse the assets, didn't he? That's right. He wants you to think I've lost my mind so you'll voluntarily give up what I chose to leave you. Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have visited more often. You have your own family, I understand. But now, I need your help. From downstairs, James's voice was loud again, talking urgently to Emily. They were plotting something, and judging by their tone, it wasn't good. Sarah, they're moving faster than I thought. They might do something tomorrow. I gripped the phone, my voice steady despite my hammering heart. My hearing came back, but I've been pretending to be deaf because of what I've heard about your brother. Why didn't you tell James? Why keep pretending? Because as soon as I got home from the hospital, I heard him call me dead weight and discuss putting me in green. Hills, he calculated this house is worth $520,000 after paying off the mortgage. If you've ever secretly overheard a painful truth from a loved one, leave a heart and share it in the comments. They want to use my money to buy a house in Santa Fe. Sarah's voice was tense, disbelieving. He really called you dead weight? Word for word, I replied. But that's not the worst of it, dear. They have a doctor friend, Evans, who will falsify a medical report, declaring me mentally incompetent. They plan to have me declared incapacitated and then challenge all my legal decisions. Oh my God, Mom, that's elder abuse. That's fraud. Sarah breathed heavily over the phone. Now I understand why you changed the will. You have to protect yourself before they act. But Sarah, there's more. Tonight I overheard them saying, Dr. Evans confirmed Friday morning. They're speeding up the plan. Sarah was silent, processing her brother's betrayal. Mom, I'm disgusted. All those years you supported him, paid for his wedding, helped with his student loans, everything. And this is how he repays you. David is shocked too, Sarah said. He says he'll support whatever you need. Your father always saw James's true colors. I should have listened to John more. What do you need me to do? I can take Friday off and come right now. Not yet, dear. When James calls back, and he will call, I want you to pretend to agree. Say you're worried about my mind. Maybe suggest you plan to visit this weekend. You want me to lie to him? I want you to give him enough rope to hang himself. He's desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. From downstairs, James and Emily's voices rose, sounding urgent. I pressed the phone to my ear. Hold on, Sarah, they're discussing something. James's voice was clearly audible through the vent. Dr. Evans confirmed 10 a.m. Friday. He's doing the in-home evaluation. Emily asked, what if she's uncooperative? She has no choice. Evans will say she shows signs of dementia, confusion, memory loss, and an inability to make rational decisions. With the will change as proof of instability, we'll have grounds to petition for competency review. James continued. And Sarah is already suspicious about Mom's mind. I planted the seed tonight. When I call her back tomorrow and press the issue, she might even support the evaluation. I returned to the phone, my voice low. Sarah, did you catch that? Enough, Mom. They plan to have you declared incompetent Friday morning. We can't let that happen. No, I won't, but I have an idea. Tomorrow when James calls, act worried about me. Say an evaluation might be a good idea. I don't like lying to him. Dear, he stopped being family the moment he decided to steal your mother's freedom and sell her house. He's trying to exploit your kindness for fraud. Sarah was silent for a moment. You're right. What else do I need to do? Keep making your brother nervous until I give the signal. And Sarah, write down everything he says. Every lie. Every scheme. We might need it later. What are you planning, Mom? I looked around the bedroom, John's jewelry box on the dresser, our wedding photo on the nightstand, the life we built in the house James wanted to sell. I'm going to remind James who he underestimated. He thinks he's dealing with a confused, helpless old woman. Tomorrow he'll find out how wrong he is. Be careful, Mom. If he's desperate enough for fraud, who knows what else he'll do. Don't worry, dear. I survived 35 years as a design engineer and 6 years without John. I can handle a greedy son and his useless wife. But I wondered, could I keep deceiving James and Emily indefinitely? Or would they eventually discover the truth and turn the tables? After hanging up, I sat in the darkness, listening to James and Emily discuss their final plans to strip me of my freedom. They didn't know the victim heard every word, recorded every lie, and was preparing her own surprise. Through the dining room curtains, I saw James and Emily loading shopping bags into their 2019 Honda SUV. James gesticulated wildly toward his phone. Emily checked her watch for the third time in a minute. "We'll be back at 2 p.m., Emily called into the house, assuming I couldn't hear. James took out his small notebook and wrote, "Mom, we're going shopping. We'll be back soon." I stood motionless behind the curtain until the car turned the corner. Then I smiled. 3 hours. Enough time to prepare their farewell gift. I walked slowly through the house, checking everything. James had made himself quite comfortable in the guest room he occupied. The drawers were full of expensive clothes, silk shirts, designer jeans, sparkling jewelry despite the dim light. If you've ever prepared a trap for a betrayer, leave a heart and share it in the comments. I noticed from the receipt on James's bedside table, everything was purchased using a credit card billed to my home address. James had taken over the living room closet with 3 business suits, a golf club set, an expensive laptop, and several electronic gadgets I didn't recognize. The price tag on his golf bag was enough to feed a family for a month. From the basement, I retrieved the 2 large suitcases John and I used for our anniversary trips to Yosemite. The leather was still soft, the brass lock still gleamed. Those suitcases once held happy memories. Now they would carry something else. I started with James's belongings, folding each item meticulously, just as I used to draw technical designs years ago. His wedding suit, still in the plastic from his wedding to Emily. His college photo album, paid for with my retirement money. The personal kit I gave him when he was 16, now filled with items I had never seen him use. Emily's things went into the second suitcase. Her business dresses, sparkling jewelry, a leather portfolio containing business cards from jobs she couldn't hold. Everything they brought into my house. Everything they accumulated while living under my roof, plotting to steal my life. As I folded, John's words came back to me from the last time James visited before his wedding. He takes everything you give him and asks for more. When will it be enough, Wilson? Never, I said aloud in the empty room. It will never be enough. I dragged both suitcases out to the living room, setting them prominently in front of the sofa where they couldn't be missed. On the kitchen counter, next to the new will, I placed a printout of the text message James sent Dr. Evans that I saw on his forgotten phone. Need to arrange Mom's incapacity evaluation ASAP. It was the final blow. The scene was striking. 2 expensive suitcases placed like an accusation in the middle of the room. My phone vibrated with a message from Sarah. "Are you okay, Mom? Ready for this afternoon?" I texted back, "Everything is ready. Wish me luck." Sarah immediately replied, "You got this. Mom, they deserve everything that's coming." I sat down in the armchair, holding the newspaper, positioning myself for a clear view of the front door. The living room was perfect. My 2 chairs, John's china cabinet, family photos on the mantelpiece, and the 2 suitcases standing like a monument to betrayal in the center. At 1:30 p.m., the familiar sound of their car pulled into the driveway. A car door slammed, followed by James's loud laughter at something Emily said. Shopping bags rustled as they approached the door. I took a deep breath, lowering the newspaper just a fraction, preparing for my peak performance. The key turned in the lock. Tomorrow should be enough stuff for the... James's voice cut off abruptly as the door swung open. The sound of the shopping bags dropping onto the hardwood floor rang out like a gunshot. "What the hell is that?" Emily's voice was sharp, confused. "James, are those our suitcases?" I heard James rush over, his breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. He quickly flipped open his notebook and scribbled, "Mom, what is this?" Then called loudly, Mom, what is this?" I kept the newspaper covering my face, savoring every second of their panic, maintaining the facade of a calm old woman reading the news. Then the unexpected happened. James's voice completely changed, filled with genuine excitement. "Emily, my God, she packed her bags. You mean the old woman is finally giving up?" Emily instantly caught the vibe, her voice bright with joy. "I can't believe it." "Finally!" James almost burst out laughing. "She agreed to go to Green Hills. We don't need to do the Dr. Evans thing anymore." "Perfect!" Emily began pacing, her steps quick and light. "We can start renovating next week. Maybe call the contractor in Santa Fe. $870,000, Emily? We're free." They were celebrating. Truly celebrating what they thought was my surrender, my failure, my readiness to disappear from their lives. Every cruel word confirmed their true nature. I slowly lowered the newspaper and looked straight at them. "No, children," I said, my voice clear, absolutely calm. "You are the ones leaving my house." James's face went paper white. His look of triumphant excitement froze, shattering into horror. "Mom, did you just hear me?" His voice was barely a whisper. Emily retreated toward the door, her eyes widening as she realized the implication of my clear voice. "Mrs. Wilson, how long have you been able to hear?" I slowly rose to my feet, my joints feeling stronger than they had in years. "Every word since I came home from the hospital 3 days ago." James put a hand over his mouth. "You heard everything we said? Every conversation about you being dead weight, every plan to sell your house, every scheme to declare you incompetent and steal your life." Just then, James's phone rang. His eyes widened when he saw the name. "Sarah, don't answer," Emily frantically whispered, but I spoke up. "Put it on speakerphone, James." Under my steely gaze, James, trembling, put the call on speaker. "James? I'm so worried. Why isn't Mom answering?" Sarah's anxious voice rang out. I spoke clearly. "Sarah, it's Mom. I heard everything, dear. I know all the lies James told you about me. I'm sorry I ever doubted you." "Mom?" Sarah's voice was choked with emotion. I love you." James was paralyzed. His entire scheme to divide us had completely collapsed. Emily's face turned from pale to crimson. "Mom, we were just frustrated." "We didn't mean it." I cut her off, my voice cold as ice. "I know exactly who you are, Emily. Both of you." James's eyes were glistening with tears, but I saw the calculation behind them. He quickly scribbled, "Mom, we can explain. We were just worried about you, thinking you needed more care. You calculated my $870,000 as if it were already yours," I said, my voice calm and sharp. "You plan to use Dr. Evans's false report to declare me mentally incompetent." James pointed at Emily, panicking. "That was her idea." "I would never do that to you, Mom." "You called me dead weight, James," I countered. "In my own home, while plotting to steal my freedom and sell my house." I looked deep into his eyes, asking myself again, could I ever forgive James after everything he's done? Or had my love been misplaced for too long? Emily's shock turned to fury. "You can't kick us out. We have nowhere to go. We gave up our apartment to take care of you. You moved in because you couldn't afford the rent," I replied coldly. "Now you will learn to take care of yourselves without me." James knelt by my chair, grasping my hand with both of his. "Mom, I am your son. I made a mistake, but I love you." I looked down at him, the man who took everything I gave and still wanted more, the man who intended to destroy my dignity and freedom for money. "If you loved me, James, you wouldn't have called me dead weight. You wouldn't have planned to declare me crazy. You wouldn't have celebrated when you thought I surrendered." I pointed to the 2 suitcases. "Everything you brought into my house, everything you accumulated while living for free and plotting my future, is in there. It's more than you deserve." James collapsed. tears streaming down his face, his hands still clutching mine. "Mom, you're breaking my heart. I'm your son!" His voice cracked as if his emotion was genuine, but I had just heard him celebrating my failure minutes ago. "Please, Mom, don't do this to me." He continued, "Dad would be heartbroken if he saw you treating your son like this." That was the final straw. I stood up straight, my voice hard as steel. "Don't you dare bring your father into this, James. Your father warned me about your greed a long time ago. Watch out for James," he said. "He only shows up when he needs something." I didn't listen, but now I see clearly. James's face went pale. "Dad didn't say that. You're making it up. He said it after you asked for $6,000 for an anniversary trip while your father was in the hospital," I replied. James stammered. I didn't. His voice trailed off as the memory resurfaced. Emily stepped forward, trying another approach. "Mrs. Wilson, everyone makes mistakes. We are family. We can work this out." James seized her words, his tears stopping as if a faucet was turned off. "Yes, Mom, I'll take better care of you. We'll cancel the Dr. Evans thing. Everything will be completely different." "You've shown me your true colors," I responded evenly. "I believe that," James yelled, nearly hysterical. "People change, Mom. Give us a chance." Emily lost her composure, her face fiery red, her voice shrill. "You can't just throw us out like trash. We have legal rights here." "No, Emily, you have no rights in my house," I said. "You're not tenants. You're not family with entitlement rights. You're just guests who have overstayed their welcome." Emily pointed a finger at me. "We will contest the will. We'll prove you're mentally incompetent. No sane person cuts out their own child." I smiled calmly. "Good luck. My lawyer has recordings of all your conversations about your plans." Emily's face went white. "Recordings? You can't record private conversations without consent." Of course, there were no recordings, but the psychological strike was immediate and devastating. James panicked. "Mom, we were just stressed." "We didn't mean it. We were scared and just talking nonsense." "You meant every word," I replied. "You calculated my assets down to the last penny. You planned your future as if I were already dead." Emily became aggressive. "Where are we supposed to go now? We have no money. We gave up our apartment to take care of you." "You moved in because you couldn't afford the rent," I corrected. "That is no longer my problem." James tried one last maneuver, his voice pleading like a child begging for candy. "Mom, I spent my whole life taking care of you. I sacrificed everything. I loved Dad just as much as you did." "You skipped your father's funeral for Emily's work party in Santa Fe," I countered. "You said it was a big opportunity and Dad would have wanted you to go." James's mouth opened and closed, silenced. "You visited your father twice in his last month at the nursing home. Twice. I was there every day, listening to him ask for his son." "I couldn't bear to see Dad like that," James whispered. "But you could bear planning to toss me into Green Hills to sell the house where your father died." James's face hardened. The mask of the dutiful son fell away completely. "Fine," James stood up, dusting off his knees, his voice bitter. "We're leaving, but you'll regret this. You'll be lonely, and when you need help, we won't be there." "I've been lonely for 6 years," I replied calmly. "Now at least I don't have to pretend anymore." Emily yanked one suitcase, harder than necessary. "This is insane. You're throwing away your own family." "No," I watched them both struggle with their belongings. "You threw away your family when you viewed me as an obstacle blocking your $870,000. James lifted the second suitcase, his face twisted with resentment. "You'll see. You'll know what real loneliness is." "I look forward to it," I said. They headed for the door, their expensive luggage dragging them down like anchors. At the threshold, James turned one last time. "If you change your mind." "I won't," I cut him off. "And don't call asking for money." The door slammed shut, the sound echoing like a bell through the house. I stood by the living room window, watching James and Emily shove the suitcases into the Honda SUV. Emily rearranged the bags 3 times, muttering curses every time things didn't fit. James sat in the driver's seat staring straight ahead, his face a mask of cold fury. Finally, the car door slammed. The engine roared, and they drove away from my driveway for the last time. I watched until the taillights disappeared around the corner, then gazed at the empty street for a few more minutes. The silence that followed was unlike the previous years, not suffocating like deafness, not tense with hidden hostility, but true peace. The house seemed to breathe out, shedding 6 years of stress. I walked through each room slowly, noting their absence. James's expensive skin cream was gone from the bathroom counter. His golf magazines were no longer cluttering the coffee table. The living room was spacious, clean, and free of their scattered clothes. In the dining room, I saw the shopping bags they dropped when they discovered the suitcases. I carried them to the trash, not bothering to look inside. What they bought to celebrate my failure could rot along with their scheme. I sat down in the armchair, in the living room, in my house, feeling something I hadn't felt since John died. Complete tranquility. No one was plotting against me. No one was calculating my worth or my future. I asked myself, was James's betrayal necessary for me to realize the true value of love and freedom? My phone vibrated. Sarah. Mom, how did it go? Are you okay? They're gone, dear. It's over. How do you feel? Are you sure you're all right? I pondered the question. How did I feel? Relieved, certainly. Triumphant, but above all, light, as if a burden of 6 years had been lifted without my knowing it was there. I feel free for the first time since your father passed. I'm proud of you. Standing up for yourself like this. Dad would be proud, too. I should have listened to Dad's warnings about James a long time ago. Maybe, but you gave James every chance to be the son you deserved. That's not a failure, Mom. That's love. Sarah and David came that evening, hugging me, tears streaming down their faces. They invited me to live with them in Seattle, but I shook my head, my hand caressing John's necklace, a gift he'd given me years ago. When I can't manage on my own, I'll consider it, I said, a radiant smile on my face, handing the necklace to Sarah as a symbol of love. I looked at her thinking, is Sarah truly different from James? Or am I just placing my trust in someone else? We talked for 15 more minutes. Sarah promised to visit soon, maybe bring the grandkids. They should know their real grandma, she said. After hanging up, I made myself dinner, scrambled eggs and toast, simple, eating at the dining room table, watching the sunset through the window. No one complained about the food. No one mocked my cooking. No one calculated how much the meal cost, or when I would be too old to cook for myself. I remembered John's voice. He once said, "You deserve to be treated better, Wilson." He was talking about James even back then, but I was blindly in denial. I stood in the chrysanthemum garden, listening to the sound of children laughing, my heart as light as a flower petal. Love is respect, not blind sacrifice. After dinner, I walked through the house once more, truly seeing it. The family photos on the mantelpiece told a new story. Pictures of Sarah and the grandchildren, John and me in our memories, holidays when James was small and truly loved his family, not their money. I took down James's picture, tucking it into a drawer, not out of malice, but to remember the good times, untainted by the bitter ending. The mantelpiece looked cleaner, more honest. In the study, I retrieved my legal pad. Listing: call the bank to remove James as an emergency contact. Update my medical directive. Schedule lunch with old friends I'd neglected while James was here. And plan a visit to Sarah and the grandkids in Seattle. For the first time in 6 years, I was planning for the future, not just enduring the present. As I prepared for bed, I remembered John's words from our early years together. Some people mistake kindness for weakness, Wilson, but they are wrong. Kindness is strength, and when you stop giving it to those who don't deserve it, that is wisdom. In the silence of the bedroom, my breathing was steady and peaceful, blending with the soft wind through the window. No more voices plodding from the dining room, no more hurried footsteps hiding greed, only the sound of a woman finding herself again in the home where she belonged. After 5 turbulent weeks, I realized the difference between generosity and love. between helping and coddling, between gratitude and demand. Tomorrow I will wake up in a house where I am respected, where every decision belongs to me. I smiled in the darkness. Sleep came more easily than any night in the past 6 years. Previously, I had mistaken generosity for love, catering to James's every request, from wedding money, student loan debt, to vacation loans. I opened the bank statement looking at the numbers again. The house valued at $520,000, savings $210,000, investments $140,000, totaling $870,000. Green Hills, with a cost of $5,200 a month, would deplete the estate in less than 4 years. But that wasn't James and Emily's concern. They wanted to sell the house immediately to start their new life in Santa Fe, viewing me as an obstacle to be eliminated. The phone on the table was silent, like a reminder. When was the last time James called just to chat? Did he ever ask about my day, my health, or my loneliness? Over the past 6 years, every conversation ended with a request. Car money for Emily, vacation loans, contributions for their wedding anniversary. I used to think I was a good mother, preserving John's legacy by providing for my son. But John saw clearly long ago. "You are creating dependency," he said after I paid for James's car repair for the 3rd time in half a year. "He needs to sort things out himself." "He's our son," I argued. "Family helps each other." "There is a difference between helping and coddling," John replied. "Between gratitude and demand." Now, amidst the evidence of misguided generosity, I understood what my husband was trying to say. James didn't learn to appreciate help. He learned to expect it. When I became someone who needed care, he only saw a dead weight blocking the $870,000 he considered his. I walked into the backyard, where the chrysanthemum bushes John and I planted still bloomed, their white petals trembling in the wind. "Chrysanthemums are you, Wilson," John once said. "Simple, strong, unyielding." I stepped into the living room, opening the window, letting the gentle breeze carrying the scent of chrysanthemums waft in, bringing a sense of freedom for the first time in years. That sound, like John's whisper, reminded me that I had rediscovered not only my hearing, but also myself. The wind seemed to carry his voice, reminding me of the days we spent tending the garden together, where our love blossomed and endured over the years. I asked myself, can I live as strongly as these chrysanthemums despite all the harm James and Emily inflicted? Yesterday, Sarah and David came, hugging me tightly, their eyes tearful. "Mom, come live with us in Seattle," Sarah said. "There's plenty of room. The grandkids will love having you." David nodded. "We want you close to family, to make up for the lost years." I stroked the silver necklace John gave me, a chrysanthemum pendant, then took it off and placed it in Sarah's hand. "Keep it, dear," I said. "Your father would want it to belong to someone who cherishes love." Sarah hugged me, whispering, "I will keep it forever, Mom." But I shook my head at the invitation. "I'm not ready to leave this house," I said. "This is where your father and I built our life. When I can't take care of myself, I'll consider it. But for now, I want to live for myself." I went back inside, looking at the photos on the mantelpiece, Sarah, the grandkids, moments with John. James's photo had been put away in a drawer, not out of resentment, but to keep the good memories untainted by betrayal. The mantelpiece looked cleaner, more honest. In the study, a to-do list awaited me. Call the bank to remove James as an emergency contact, schedule a checkup with Dr. Thompson, contact Ellen Hayes to secure the will, and invite Martha out for lunch. For the first time in 6 years, I was planning for the future, not just enduring the present. James and Emily thought they were clever, plotting to put me in Green Hills while I sat upstairs, pretending to be deaf, listening to every word. They thought they were dealing with a confused old woman, grateful for their fake care. But I wasn't confused. I was furious. Yesterday, I called Ellen Hayes, her voice sharp over the phone. "Mrs. Wilson, the new will is completely secure. James only gets $2,000, exactly as you wished." "Thank you, Ellen," I replied. "It's the lesson he needs." Some calls just couldn't wait for business hours. This morning, in the chrysanthemum garden, I realized the biggest lesson. Love is not blind sacrifice, but mutual respect. I had loved James with all my heart, but he chose betrayal. Now I am learning to love myself, to love those who are worthy like Sarah, to love the memory of John, and to love the peaceful days ahead. I know James and Emily won't accept this failure. The $2,000 trap is only the beginning. I need to be ready for the final battle. But I wonder, will James try to return someday? And will I be strong enough to hold my ground? The pretense of deafness is over, but the $2,000 will is the coldest, most satisfying price for his disrespect. Mrs. Wilson's story is the voice for millions of betrayed hearts. If you believe in true family values and the notion that kindness is never stupidity, subscribe now to help us spread this powerful message. Disrespect will never be tolerated. Don't miss the next part of the story, where you will discover how to turn pain into power to protect yourself and your loved ones. In your opinion, is $2,000 for the crime of disrespect absolute justice or cruel revenge? Comment now.